Hey everyone, I'm Common Logic. Thanks for being here with me in this moment, taking the time to watch my videos. So this is now my second video that I'm making. Well, technically third. So the first one that I originally tried to put up on my YouTube channel was the actual body cam footage of me being arrested. But within minutes of that being up, YouTube flagged it and pulled it down saying that pornography is not allowed. So I guess me being shirtless is pornography on the beach. Anyway, that video is viewable on my website. You can find it on commonlogic.net. It's also on my little bio thing. If you can't figure it out, there you can watch it. So then the first video ended up being more of an introduction of just kind of what I'm doing here, what I'm about. And now this video will be a little more deeper dive of what kind of took place during my arrest at the beach. So let's go back in time to, let's say, August 18th, 2024. I was at the beach with a friend. I was in the jurisdiction of town of Palm Beach and just minding my own business. Took my shirt off, didn't really think anything of it. I'd actually been going to the beach shirtless for quite some time at this point, so I didn't really see the big issue. Usually I do it at a different beach, not the one where I did it, but just so happened that I was with a friend who lived in that area. So I was like, all right. And out of nowhere, this hotel manager lady comes up and tries to, tell me what to do. Mind you, I'm not even on their property. The hotel is way back here. My friend and I are like way up here. So it's not even a question of trespass or being anywhere near their roped off section. We're well like in the public bathing area. And so this lady comes over and tries to tell me what to do. And I told her, I said, no, like, I'm not putting my shirt on. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not hurting anybody. And it's my constitutional right. And with that, she was not happy. And so I said, well, let's call the police. Like, obviously, nobody knows the law here, and I'm not going to just take your commands because you're a manager. Like, that's not going to happen. So she said she's going to call the police. So in this time, I went to the beach, or I went in the ocean, Atlantic Ocean. I was swimming shirtless, but nobody cared. Literally nobody at the beach even cared. It was like the hottest day of life in August, and it was a weekend, so it was packed. There's so many people, and literally nobody cared what I was doing. Like it wouldn't even dawn on anybody that I was doing anything wrong. So there I am swimming. Then all of a sudden the police show up, and I'm like, okay, let's go. And it ended up just being really ugly. Both officers could care less about anything that was going on. In fact, one of them had even clearly mentioned that um, what I'm doing, the conduct that I'm doing, is not in the code of ordinances. And at the time, I didn't actually know what was in that code of ordinance because I just figured I had a full on constitutional right. We'll get back to the ordinance part here soon. And the other officer mentioned that, because I was telling them, I was like, this is my constitutional right. Like, I'm allowed to do this. I'm not exposing any sexual organs. That's what they considered breasts to be, even though breasts are glands. They're mammary glands. They're absolutely not sexual organs. So that's what I was explaining. I was like breaking it apart. I was really making it like easy enough for even like a 3-year-old to understand. But anyway, then the one officer finally, as I'm like close to being arrested, said, well, if we're wrong, you could just take us to court and sue us. So basically admitting he's not aware of the law, basically admitting he's not willing to look into the law, and admitting that he's just going to do whatever he feels he's entitled to do. So I end up being arrested for indecent exposure, resisting arrest without violence, and false identification. And I'm taken away to the squad car where I'm unlawfully searched and a whole bunch of other things. And finally, I spent my first night in jail ever. And it was ugly. It was horrible. It was awful. I cried so much. It was really just so terrible. For anybody who's been there, We all know each other's pains, and for anybody who hasn't been there, it's not pretty. And what I mostly wanted to share in this video was expressing about the code of ordinances. So each township, each city, each county is always going to have their own code of ordinances. And even while there's, the Constitution, then there's state law, then there's code of ordinances, because each town can technically create their own little rules that they want for themselves. For example, at in Miami, there's the Hallover Beach, and that is a nude beach. And so in their code of ordinances, they have that in that specific area, you can be completely naked and you will not be arrested. That's what they wanted. That's what they voted on. That's what they agreed to. So that is in their code of ordinances. And what I'd like to point out here is for town of Palm Beach is that in their code of ordinances, which I had not known at the time of my arrest, but following, even after my trial, I had looked into this and guess what I found out? So I'm going to share my screen here so we can delve in a little deeper into what I want to talk about here. So sharing my screen, and we'll go over here. All right. So what I want to talk about here is, let's go to the ordinance. So this is ordinance number 2-81. And what this basically says is an ordinance of the town of Palm Beach County, Florida, amending chapter 21 of the Code of Ordinances, Town of Palm Beach, entitled Offenses and Miscellaneous Provisions. So basically, and another thing I'd like to point out with this before we jump into it is I had to fight tooth and nail to even get this ordinance. So I had gone on Town of Palm Beach's website just to pull down their code of ordinances just to look through whatever, and I was looking for the specific section that was for beaches um and activities and outdoor leisure, because that's usually the sections that I'm looking for, and I could not find it. And I was like, that's weird. Why would they have an omitted section for something that's supposed to be publicly viewable so that people can know what they can and can't do in a certain area? So I hopped on to Town of Palm Beach's clerk and I sent her an email and I said, hey, what's going on? I need a public records request. Can you send me this section? And at first she was not really understanding why I needed it, but I was like, well, it's omitted on the online version. Where else am I going to find this? So finally she sent it to me, and check out this bad boy, bad girl. So let's jump down to this section right here. So be it ordained by the town council of the town of Palm Beach County, Florida, as follows. Section 1, Section 2148 of the Code of Ordinances, Town of Palm Beach, is hereby repealed, and this ordinance shall serve in its place and stead. So the section was repealed, but now what's following shall serve in its place instead. So that means this is what we go off of. So, Section 2. It shall be unlawful for any person to appear in any public place in the town of Palm Beach without the upper part of his or her body covered. This section shall not apply to private property or public bathing beaches and the immediate vicinity of public bathing beaches. So what I just read to you here is it's unlawful to be in the town of Palm Beach publicly without the upper part of your body covered, so from the waist up, but this section does not apply to three places: private property, public bathing beaches, and the immediate vicinity of public bathing beaches. So what this is saying is in those three areas, You can basically be topless as a man or a woman. And let's jump down a little bit further. Section 3. A person engaged in recreational activities in public places and facilities in the town of Palm Beach where such recreational activities are otherwise permitted and which are not areas excluded from the operations of this ordinance by Section 2 shall have the upper part of his or her body covered in appropriate clothing to and characteristic of the recreational activity being undertaken. So basically, this is saying if you're not in those three areas, as mentioned, you must have your upper part of your body covered. And notice once again, it says his or her. So that's for everybody. That's equality right there. Now, if we jump down to definitions, vicinity of public bathing beaches shall mean within 150 feet of an ocean beach. Beach, as used in this ordinance, shall mean the landward most portion of the sandy area adjacent to the Atlantic Ocean. Person or individual shall mean a male or female 14 years of age or older. So basically, they're saying both male and female can be shirtless in private property, public bathing beaches, and the vicinity of public bathing beaches. And the vicinity is now so within 150 feet of public bathing beaches. And let's see what else there is to see. The other thing that's interesting, so now we're going to jump down to Section 5, penalties. Any person who shall violate any of the terms, provisions, or conditions of this ordinance shall, upon conviction thereof, be punished by a fine as provided by general law for the violation of municipal ordinances, but shall not be subject to imprisonment. So that's pretty crazy because if their code of ordinances says that penalties shall not be subject to imprisonment, why was I sent to prison? Why was I arrested for something that is actually allowed in their code of ordinances? That's really crazy. And that's really disturbing that we have these, paid police officers to uphold the law, to enforce the law, to keep us safe and protect us, yet they don't even know what they're enforcing. And not only did they imprison me, but they had initially charged me with indecent exposure. And if anybody knows anything about that charge, basically it means that I would have been a registered sex offender just for simply having my shirt off. I had my shorts fully on. So this is really crazy. And this could have happened to any woman, anybody, really, I mean, it's the fact that nobody knows what they can and can't do within their areas. This is really crucial information. So if we jump a little bit further down, this was passed and adopted in January 13th, 1981. And then the second and final reading on February 10th, 1981. So that's a long time. So if we count that out to 91, that's 10 years. 2001, that's 20 years. 2011, 30 years. 2021, 40 years. That's 40 plus years that this ordinance has been active. And it, according to this part, this ordinance shall take effect immediately upon its passage and approval, as provided by law. So this has been active since 1981. None of this should have happened. According to their terms and their definitions, none of this should have happened. is this a fluke or is this an attack on women? Because I don't see men being arrested for having their shirt off. So this is a serious issue that us women still have to deal with and tackle. So I'm happy to send this ordinance to anybody that's interested in looking at it, or you can see if you can find it on the Code of Ordinances for Town of Palm Beach, and maybe you have to do a separate public records request. But I highly encourage anybody, especially women, if you're in an area where you're unsure about what you can and can't do, is check out your Code of Ordinances. Although that's not the supreme law of the land, it is something that you can go off of within your little area. So I highly recommend that. And another thing that I wanted to point out for this video is Google Maps. I just wanted to show everybody where I specifically was so that you can kind of like estimate what happened here. So let's type in Town of Palm Beach jurisdiction. And so we look in this little area here. I'm going to scroll up. So these dotted red lines indicate the jurisdiction of what would be Palm Beach, Town of Palm Beach. So let's scroll down. So on this super hot day with my friend, we entered actually through Lake Worth. They have their own little parking lot, and she lives close to there, so we decided that was the best place to go. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So even though it says Lake Worth right over here, this is still Town of Palm Beach. And then it hops over Lake Worth and resumes down here all the way to this area here. So from reading the ordinance, all of this section, anybody can be without their upper part of their body covered, both men and women. So let's zoom in back again. So on this day, came in with my friend, parked somewhere around there. I didn't really want to be in the Lake Worth area beach because I was like, there's a lot of people here. I want to go like further north where there's less people. So we walked and we walked. And if you can see this Tideline place, I really don't like them at all. Really don't care for them and their business. So, you know, let people know not to stay here. They are not in alignment with equality. So we had walked to the beach here, and we were just about kind of like right in this area, right? Definitely within 150 feet of the Atlantic Ocean. And so here we were. And then, this hotel manager came and was being like a super Karen and was just like, can't do that. I'm gonna call the police, blah, blah, blah. And I said, please do. I would love to speak to the police. And so this is where it happened. And I was well within my rights to be doing what I did here. As you can see, this is in the red dotted lines of Palm Beach. So there is no reason why any of this should have happened. There's no reason I should have been jailed. There's no reason I should have been arrested. This was just a really ugly day. And I'm obviously pursuing remedies. I'm absolutely filing my federal lawsuit. I'm currently in an appeal with the Fourth District Court of Appeals, which I'll make another video on that as well. But this was mostly just to kind of educate everybody and show people, you're always going to want to look at where the Code of Ordinances that you're looking at applies to. Because as you can see, that Code of Ordinances does not apply to this Lake Worth section. I have not looked at Lake Worth's Code of Ordinances, so I don't actually know what they allow or don't allow. I don't really hang out there enough to even care, so I'm leaving it at that. But for now, we know that all of this section, all of this dotted red line, both men and women can be topless. So with that being said, I'm going to leave it at that for this section for my video. I'm hoping that I was able to inform you guys on what you can and can't do. So always make sure to do your own research. And if you can't find it online, definitely ask the clerk because we are entitled to this public information so that we can adhere to rules and regulations of where we are. So thanks again for listening in. Feel free to check out my website for the video that was deemed as pornography, which is just me being arrested on the beach with my shirt off. It's not really a big deal. So maybe one day I'll be able to get that onto YouTube, but for now, I'm being banned in that aspect. So I'm just doing other informational videos in the time being. And I hope to create some more videos and content. And I hope that I'm becoming a better displayer of information. Thanks again for listening, and I hope to have you all back with me for the next video whenever I decide to do that. So take care, and until next time.